In today's video, we're going to talk about a sin that never gets talked about. So I've recently been reading the book The Pilgrim's Progress by John Bunyan. And the story, if you don't know it, is an allegory basically of a man who's on a journey, and the pathway that he's walking on is called the Way. And it's essentially the road to heaven. And along his path, he meets all kinds of people, some good, some bad, and they all represent something. Maybe a good attribute that God asks Christians to have, or maybe a sin that misguides Christians. And the main character comes to a fork in the road in one instance, and he doesn't know where to go, and him and his companion are confused. But there's a man who comes up, and he is dressed very well. And he says, "Oh, come on and follow me." So what do? Well, they follow him because they don't know any better. And they walk along for a little while. It seems to be going okay. They walk a little bit further, and they seem to be turning away from the city, heaven, that they were aiming towards. They walk a little bit further, and they realize something's really wrong here. But just when that happens, this man, who they've been following, captures them in a net. And as soon as the man captures them, he throws off kind of his outward garments that made him look so good, and they realize that he's actually evil. And when he's finally revealed as his true self, they realize this man is the flatterer. The dictionary definition of flattery is excessive or insincere praise, given especially to further one's own interests. The main characters in the story, when they're caught, they go, we were warned against people like this, and we didn't listen. We were deceived. And you may have experiences where you were deceived by a flatterer, and part of the reason I think we fall prey to that is because we just don't talk about it that much. When it comes to, biblical principles and characteristics, flattery is just not one that gets talked about a lot because it's not one of the big sins, right? It's not one of the big things to watch out for. And so a lot of times it's never mentioned. I don't know that I've ever heard a sermon on the dangers of flattery. But the Bible has quite a bit to say about it. Flattery is dangerous both inside and outside the church. Even if you're not a Christian, you have to watch out for flattery just in a secular sense. But within the church, it's particularly dangerous. In fact, one of Paul's sternest warnings to the church in Rome, in Romans chapter 16, is to watch out for flatterers because they are divisive people. I appeal to you, brothers, to watch out for those who cause divisions and create obstacles contrary to the doctrine that you have been taught. Avoid them. For such persons do not serve our Lord Christ, but their own appetites, and by smooth talk and flattery they deceive the hearts of the naive. These people are very dangerous in the Lord's body. Oh, but they seem so good when they first show up. They come in and they say all the right things, and they know all the right words, and their doctrine is on point. And they might even be able to preach or teach or lead singing, and somebody might think, well, he or she may be a great asset to this congregation. And what's more is that they dole out compliments all the time. They're always complimenting people, and people warm up to compliments real fast, and so they soon become a very loved part of a congregation. But you remember what the definition said about a flatterer. The only reason he does that is because he has his own interests in mind. And often, it's not long before these people start to spread division among members, or trying to weasel their way into positions of authority or influence. And if you're not very, very careful, you can be deceived by people like this. They say one thing and then lead you or other people off in a different direction. It's like in Sleeping Beauty where they got the apple and the apple looks so good and they're like, oh, just take a bite of the apple. And then they take a bite and it's poisonous. It's kind of the same thing. Okay, so how do we defend against falling into the trap and the snare and allowing these people to lead us astray? Well, the answer is very simple, and it's the answer that Jesus gives us, that you will know people by their fruits. Does what comes out of their mouth line up with the way that they're living? Does what they profess to believe play itself out in their lives? And if the answer to that is no, then you might have a problem. Words are cheap, and compliments are cheap, but they easily buy people's affections, and you have to be on guard that the devil's not using somebody to win over your affections and lead you down a path that's not going to lead you anywhere good. Proverbs chapter 29 verse 5 says, "A man who flatters his neighbor spreads a net for his feet." And then Proverbs 26 verses 24, "Everyone who hates disguises himself with his lips and harbors deceit in his heart. When he speaks graciously, believe him not, for there are 7 abominations in his heart. Though his hatred be covered with deception, his wickedness will be exposed in the assembly. Whoever digs a pit will fall into it, and a stone will come back on him who starts it rolling. A lying tongue hates its victims, and a flattering mouth works ruin." Churches can be brought to ruin and suffer real hardship when we fall into the trap of people who are flatterers. So it's worth taking the time to see what the Bible has to say about it. And the next time you encounter somebody like that, you'll be on your guard. Thank you everybody for watching the channel. I've been on a mission trip and I've been busy with some other things, and so I haven't uploaded as frequently as I'd like to. Hopefully now we'll get back into a more regular schedule and there'll be more videos up a couple a week at least. And so thank you for watching. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Hit that like button, share it with your friends if they can benefit from it, and comment down below if you have any questions or any other verses about flattery that I missed. See you next time.